What's going on, everyone? My name is JX and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a new dialogue to break down for you. This month's event quest called Invasive Species, which is, I guess, a nod to a toad being an invasive species and maybe even a pterodactyl. But yeah, man, we have obviously the Brotherhood of Mutants event. We kind of knew this was coming because of the year 7 teases and, of the narrative. So we kind of knew they were coming, which is pretty awesome. And maybe the Kitty Pride synergy kind of, confirmed. Obviously, we found out that was actually Sauron, which obviously no one saw coming. Like I even searched for anyone saying Sauron and I couldn't find it. Toad, I said, was probably gonna come, but he wasn't who I wanted. I mean, I totally wanted Pyro. I mean, Pyro would have been sick. Even Mystique, if they could have got her to work, we still know that she can't work in the game. Just shapeshifting just is not a thing Kabam can finally fixate for the game yet. But we'll take Toad and Sauron. I'm sure they're gonna be hilarious. But yeah, so anyways, this event takes place right after last month's event with Kraven Shield in the Savage Lands, which is pretty cool because the Savage Lands has been in the game, like I said, for years, and we've never had a story there. So I was so excited last month's event quest to finally take place there. I didn't really like last month's event quest because it didn't really do anything. Like, it just established the Savage Lands again. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. They didn't really tease anything. Like, no, we just knew there were inhabitants of the Savage Lands. Now, was that Khazar? And it wasn't. So I don't know. I was assuming it would have got something, but yeah, it was just Kraven. So, but now we know that there is Toad and Sauron in the game, and so we'll find out. Now, also, I want to say I usually tell people to check out the motion comic and my motion comic breakdown, but there was no motion comic this month, so. I can't really say that. So, yeah, anyways, moving on. All right, yeah, so like I said, we're back in the Savage Lands. We find, obviously, Ronan here, who's like, hey, S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't call me for anything unless it's big. So, obviously, there was, the huge thing last month, so check out that event quest. And he's like, I'm not here to sweep you under the rug. I'm here to sweep up this whole debacle with Kraven. You obviously knocked out Daisy Johnson out of work because obviously we had to defeat her last month. And he basically is talking about okay, I guess we're destroying this flower because obviously, it's basically making everyone into berserkers. Anyone that consumes it, it increases their power level, but it makes them into a berserker rage. So yeah. Anyways, we basically accompanying him, and he's talking about back at HQ, you can't throw a rock without hitting a double agent of some sort, and also it's pizza day, which I think is funny because obviously, like I said last month, literally Shield is so shady, so it wouldn't surprise me that that's how that event quest worked, and apparently it's pizza time. All right. Anyways, moving on. We find this truck where it's supposed to be housing all the flowers, but it's set on fire and it's about to explode. And so basically we're trying to get out of the way, and then boom, it explodes, and Toad wakes us up. He's, hopefully he didn't lick us. And so obviously we wake up, and Toad's kind of explaining, saying, no time for introductions, mate. There was a madman with a sword tearing through the jungle. So it looks like Ronan probably got infected with this flower, and he's in this berserker rage. And Sauron appears, and he's like, hey, you almost touched that filthy you almost touched that filthy human. Which, I don't know if I'm that filthy, man. Anyways, so he's like, how rude of us. Let's introduce yourself. I'm Mortimer. Toy. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but obviously Toad's real name. I'm a senior and founding member of the Brotherhood. Yeah, and he's exactly that. He's the oldest, basically one of the oldest Brotherhood, which is really cool because, I've always wanted the Brotherhood in the game. We got, Sabretooth, years ago, and that's been it since. Anyway, Sauron's like, I doubt I need an introduction, but just in case, I'm the mighty Sauron! And yes, all the horrible stories you've heard about me are true. I do want to turn everyone to a dinosaur. Yeah, so anyway, so you could help us look for our friends. We're looking for a furry one and a big red one. So obviously Juggernaut and Sabretooth, which is pretty cool. And Toad calls him a daft pelican, which is hilarious. And he's like, how dare you? I'm prepared. Pteranodon, not some fish-eating seabird. Anyways, we're getting distracted, so let's we need some eyes in the sky. So yeah, we need to find out. I mean, the Savage Land is huge. We need to find what's happening. So we rejoin the summoners with the strange new allies, and basically we come across sentinels. Yes. Oh my goodness, man. Last month's event quest, I kind of didn't like it because it really didn't do anything. All it did was set up a flower to be destroyed. That's all it did, and there was no mention of sentinels. When obviously, if you play the map the Savage Lands, you know there are Sentinels, even Master Mold in the background, but there was no mention of Sentinels last month. So I was so happy. I'm so happy they're finally mentioning it, because I mean I love these plot lines. Even though it's like been 5 years since the Savage Lands first got into the game, it's not until now it's actually fully recognized with Sentinels in it, because the Sentinels we have in game are from the future, from the set, like from basically where mutants destroyed everyone else, and these are from ISO infused Sentinels. But these Sentinels are different. These are from like classic Sentinels, but they're stuck. They're kind of stuck like Geonosia, which some people actually thought that was the map, but now it's Savage Lands. And basically, Soran's saying, "Hey, if you awaken one, it's only going to attack a mutant." And Toad's like, "Soran, for the love, listen, mate, you are a mutant. At least I think you are. You remember being a human, right?" So yeah, I mean, Soran obviously in the comics isn't a mutant. He only gets his powers from absorbing mutants. So kind of like Mr. Sinister. Even I guess Deadpool, because he kind of got his powers through Wolverine's DNA. And for Kabam, that's what they've kind of done, is like you basically fit into the mutant class if you're kind of, I guess not really, I don't know, like you somehow have your powers from a mutant, which kind of makes sense, I guess. You know, in the comics, Deadpool was never a mutant, Soran was never a mutant, Mr. Sinner kind of never was a mutant. He's been retconned a couple times, but yeah, like that's how it's been. And you know, for how the game works, it makes sense to make Soran a mutant. But yeah, I mean, I totally saw him being science, but hey. Anyways, yeah, so we move on, and Toad's like, "Hey, you remember being human?" And this is his response: "Why would I accustom you with such insults? I'm just said I'm a proud pteranodon, apex predator of the skies." Yeah, he is very proud. And Toad's like, "You remember the name Carl Lycos, right? The hypnotherapist?" And then he just like stands up like that like almost like the ISO spell. Whenever you're controlled by it, you just stand up straight. But anyways, he's just like, "Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about." So that's pretty funny. And he's like, "Never mind. All right, let's just move on." And then we cross the Sentinel, who's like, you know, mutant detected, must contain, you know, whatever, you know, beta, alpha, omega level mutant, which is pretty awesome. See, mutant singular. Soren's just like, "He's not after me, he's after you, you mutant scum." You're not a dinosaur. Anything but a dinosaur is scum. Great job, summoner. All right, that's it, summoner. We found a clearing. And that's not what you said when I was carrying you. So just I like it's kind of funny. Like they have this like funny relationship, because Toad obviously, you know, made Soran a Brotherhood of Mutant for a limited time, but it was cool. So yeah, so they're just helping us out. And he's like, "Hey, how did like the Brotherhood of Mutants get here?" And he's kind of explaining it. So I've been with the Brotherhood since the beginning, and I can't get no respect. Yeah, Toad, like, I gotta say, you know, he is the jester, right? He's the jester of the Brotherhood. He's pretty much the laughingstock of the mutant. Of the Brotherhood of Mutants. So it's kind of, I love that they're playing into the storylines that they've set up in the comics. And he says, "Ever since Big Red packed up shop and moved to the Brotherhood out of here, the Savage Lands, I've been trying to prove myself, gain a little prestige. You didn't hear about Magneto breaking away from Xavier's little conclave? Yeah, he's had a fill of the old Charlie boy, and that's bootlicking imposters squabbling with Apocalypse." So this is pretty cool. It's kind of like House of X a little bit, but this is mostly talking about what happened during the Kitty Pryde event, where we finally established Arakko, which Arakko obviously is inhabited by mutants, but not any mutants, basically Apocalypse's family. So obviously he's the leader of Arakko there, and so it seems like the Quiet Council that we have in the comics is a little bit different here in the contest, that Apocalypse isn't a part of. And the comics, Apocalypse had to basically go to Arakko because his wife had been there for 1,000 years, and he was like, "It's my turn to do it," and he kind of left. And so now we have this a little bit kind of the same thing, but it seems like Magneto and Professor X in the comics are like basically the best friends, and they're even a little bit shady. But in this version, in our contest, it looks like, I guess, they're breaking up like a boy band. But yeah, so it seems like he literally brought Asteroid M to the Savage Lands, which is insane to me. Which obviously is another map in the contest. It's that, obviously, with that big building in the background, you're on an asteroid, and it's got the big M. That's basically Magneto's place. And he basically, yeah, that's still pretty crazy. He just magnetizes it and then just brings it to the Savage Lands. Like, that's such Magneto, such a baller. Anyways, we hear basically laughing, and we figured out that it's Sabretooth because we can see him. But yeah, he's talking about the Savage Lands. Yeah, so he said the Brotherhood was adjusting to its new surroundings until people started going missing, almost if Savage Land itself had claimed them. So this is pretty cool. So obviously, kind of like a little bit of last month's event quest is that we kind of found out that the Savage Lands is alive, and Kraven was like you can't really do anything in Savage Lands without like being connected to the Savage Lands as a person, as an entity, which is pretty cool because it's like Krakoa and Araku. They're both living islands, which I really like the idea of. So they're kind of still playing into the storyline, which I love. Anyways, they're talking about like with big guns, like Sabretooth and Juggernaut out of the picture. Magneto turned to me and Sauron, two of his most dependable agents. I don't know about that, but anyway, Sabretooth is just maniacally laughing. Like that's such like a Sabretooth thing to do because he's absolutely insane. Like don't get that wrong. Like don't get me wrong, he's insane. So this is such his character. He's like, ha ha ha, you truly are a fool. So did you really think Magneto would send you out because you're dependable, expendable? More like, yeah, that's pretty funny. Come on now, you know it's not true. I've been the most loyal of all. Which is true, actually. Like, out of all the Brotherhood of Mutants, and recently in the trial of Magneto, Toad is really the most dependable. Like, he even took a fall for Magneto. Basically, Magneto, in the comics, spoiler for Trial of Magneto, Scarlet Witch basically had a plan with Magneto to resurrect all the mutants that are not backed up by Professor X. And what happened is that she needed to be resurrected, but she couldn't because she's not a mutant. So what they had to do is to solve this mystery, they had to resurrect her. And so basically she convinces Magneto to kill her so she'll be resurrected. And basically Toad takes the fall for it. Whatever, basically Magneto used Uru metal, and that's what killed Scarlet Witch before she was resurrected. And Toad basically, it was found in his house, and so he was obviously sent to exile in the pit. And so it's pretty cool. Like, he always is like that one to be like, I'm the most loyal, because it is really true. Like, it is true, even though he's the laughing stock of the Brotherhood. And so yeah, and basically pretty cool is that Sabretooth is like, you're basically just a janitor on Krakoa, which I don't think is that way in the comics from what I've read. I don't think he's a janitor, but he really isn't that cool in Krakoa. He doesn't really do anything. I think he was part of like a strike force a couple years ago or something like that. But until now, Trial of Magneto, he's obviously in the hole, basically. So obviously he's like, you're being typical, and basically Sabretooth is like still like going insane. It looks like he's obviously consumed the flower. So yeah, we defeat him, and basically Toad's talking about the flower. He's trying to figure it out, and Sauron comes back and he's talking about how the human like you summoner, he's impressed of how like you're handling yourself. I mean, everyone's impressed about us. We're just a human who just has the best friends in the multiverse. We've got to build help to fly Sabretooth back. So basically Sauron's like an errand boy flying Sabretooth to the asteroid M. And Toad's still going on. Probably catch a ride with Back to Civilization, which is pretty cool. Yeah, obviously we kind of know where the Savage Lands is, which is pretty cool because of the map. Which hopefully we get an update. I'm pretty sure we get an update to the map this year, which would be awesome. Sauron's back, and he's saying, I hate to leave this place, and Magneto and Xavier happen to make up. Yeah, like I said, so like, Magneto and Professor X, they've had their, they're best friends. Like they've had their in and outs. More recently, they're together as best friends. But, they could totally, break up and then, like a boy band, It's hilarious. Xavier, where's my Xavier? Bring me my Pipsqueak brother. So obviously we see Juggernaut for a second, and then Sauron's like, hey, found the big red one. So, I'm not being difficult. So yeah, we defeat Juggernaut, and Sauron's kind of talking to like, he's like getting annoyed that he has to drag Juggernaut. He's like, I'm not going to drag this big behemoth of a person. And then boom, guess what? Ronan appears and he's like, give me those samples. And everyone's like, what samples? Enough of the games. I started to shake off the flowers effect, followed your trail down here, and we figured out that it's one of you who has it. And he's kind of pointing at Sauron. He's like, you're the one who has the samples. And he's like, you call me a henchman? You'll pay for that. For the last time, we don't have any silly flowers or silly samples. Now be gone. It's pretty funny that they talk about his ego. And he's like, a very brave human. So obviously Ronan gets defeated, and now we have to defeat Sauron. He's like, brave of you to come against me. I'm going to suck your life force. Which we really wouldn't do anything, because obviously only mutants' life forces that he can consume. Alright, moving on, we go next, and Ronan's like, hey, we're not going to love the Savage Flower. Give it up, Frogman. Shield won't let this happen. And Toad's like, that's a different guy. That's just a guy in a frog suit. Which obviously, if you don't know who Frogman is, he's literally, this is what he is. He's literally just a guy in a frog suit, which is hilarious. We've kind of had this before where like characters are like basically taught, like, I don't know, they're mistaken for another character in the Marvel universe. Like, I think about, like, one was like Tigra was in the game and someone called her Black Cat, and she was like wrong Felicia. So, which was actually Ronan was in that event, which is pretty funny. So he's got like this habit of calling people the wrong person. We've seen it a couple different times with like other Spider-Man as well. So doesn't mean they're coming to the game, but I mean, Kabam want every character in the game to come eventually if the game survives that long. So who knows? Frogman could totally appear in the game, but definitely not this year. Anyways, Toad pulls the vial from one of his pockets, so it looks like he was actually the person stealing these things, and he just snatches up the flower and he swallows the whole thing, which is insane. Everyone is like, "What are you, crazy?" And he's like, "Don't worry about me," as he chokes, as he coughs. I've got a thing with toxins, and basically he's basically saying the Juggernaut, like he's basically saying there's more than one. Like there's no way you guys captured all the flowers. The Savage is huge. I mean, Juggernaut and Sabretooth accidentally got into them. Of course, I can always find more. Every time we go into Sabretooth and Juggernaut's trail, I notice the pollen. So he's kind of explaining how he figured it out that it actually was Toad. And Toad's like, yeah, I kind of blew it up. I kind of blew up the thing. And basically Ronan's like, okay, if you've got a problem with the Brotherhood, because the Brotherhood, obviously Toad's like, hey, no one's respecting me. I'm going to take these flowers and steal all these flowers and do it for Magneto. And Ronan's like, why wouldn't you just talk to Magneto? And he's like, I just need to prove myself. And obviously Magneto's pretty busy anyways. So, yeah, I mean... that's the end of the event. We defeat Toad, and that's it. This event was interesting. I mean, I do like that they're continuing the narrative of last month's, but it kind of seems like last month's was already self-contained anyways. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Like, do you want this continued? Do you want to see the Savage Lands? We're obviously building to the next X-Men event, which is the X of Swords event, which I'm really excited, which will probably obviously be Krakoa versus Araku. Apocalypse in his, maybe X-Force, because it doesn't look like we're getting an Arakan, one of parts of Apocalypse's family, probably that, and then versus Krakoa, which could be any number of mutants, probably with swords, obviously. You know, we got Psylocke, who's got a sword for maybe even Captain Britain with Excalibur, and then obviously we got maybe Magic, a couple other sword characters. I'm not too sure how it'll work. But yeah, what do you guys think? I loved all the Easter eggs this month. We had, the Sentinels, we had everything from last month's event, and it was pretty cool. And obviously now we kind of know that Magneto isn't with Professor X, so we kind of don't have that synergy that we have in Krakoa in the comics. But we'll kind of see what happens. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you guys had an awesome time, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, everybody.